right, moving to my fourth camp need for Iowa, and that is the defensive line. It's got to prepare for these multi-purpose quarterbacks early in the season. Remember who Iowa State and Indiana throw to the forefront at quarterback. Think about Iowa State. Brock Purdy, a seasoned veteran now at Iowa State, a guy who Iowa State fans, we're recording this here in Ames from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We are more than familiar with Iowa State fans' frustration over recent years with Brock Purdy sometimes not running as much as they'd like to see him run. This is Brock Purdy's last go-around. I think he's going to let it ride. And Iowa has had a history, more so probably closer to 2008 to 2012 period of Kirk Ferentz's tenure here at Iowa, where Iowa sort of had issues with the mobile quarterbacks. Iowa's kind of always had issues with mobile quarterbacks. I think in recent years, Kelvin Bell and Phil Parker have kind of figured out that, hey, we got to have 7-8 defensive linemen to be able to counteract against quarterbacks like a Brock Purdy, who can make plays with his arm, but can certainly make plays with his feet as well. And I want to pull up here the Indiana depth chart because it sounds like, again, these are kind of reports that we're hearing. It sounds like Michael Penix is going to play week 1. He's coming off the torn ACL. And yeah, he's the dual threat guy for Indiana. So it'll change. It looks like Jack Tuttle. I'm not seeing anybody other than Tuttle listed right now, at least as according to our lads at backup quarterback. So Jack Tuttle is more of a pro style guy. But if Penix plays, he is a dual threat quarterback. Certainly a guy with a good arm, made a lot of plays last year. I think the Ohio State-Indiana game, if you forgot what happened in that game, go back and watch Ohio State-Indiana. That was a dogfight against one of the best teams in the country, probably the second best team in the country if you look at the playoff in Ohio State. So Iowa's got two quarterbacks right out of the bat who are both dual threat guys who can beat you with their arms, guys who can beat you with their feet. They're both seasoned veterans. Michael Penix is a redshirt junior. These guys are not going to be fazed by the moment. It's good that Iowa has a home game, but this defensive line is going to have to be ready for these dual threat quarterbacks. A lot of it falls on the coaching staff. Let's take a look at what Iowa has at defensive line. Certainly, I think we're going to see a lot of Joe Evans. Y.A. Black is a guy who I think he was banged up this spring. He fits the mold. 6'5", 287. He's listed at 287 now. That is a big boy. And if he can develop, or if he has developed and he's healthy, certainly could help Iowa on the interior. Lucas Van Ness, another guy we've heard good things about. Logan Jones, Logan Lee, Chris Reams. Talk about a big guy, 6'7", maybe the next Matt Nelson type of defensive lineman at Iowa. John Wagner, Noah Shannon, Zach Van Valkenburg. They've got lots of bodies, but have these guys developed enough? I think, obviously, if you look at the depth chart, and just from what we know as far as experience, the four guys that are going to start are Joe Evans, Zach Van Valkenburg, John Wagner, and Y.A. Black. But, Y.A. Black doesn't have a whole lot of experience. We really don't know his health. We assume he's back full go. But, Logan Jones is going to work his way, I think, into the rotation there, and they need him to. Logan Lee is probably going to have to do the same. Chris Reams. They're going to need 7 or 8 guys to be successful, I think, against guys like Penix and Purdy. And again, you don't have an Illinois State coming to town. You don't have, even the Wyoming game a couple of years ago. Yes, it was Josh Allen, but Josh Allen is not a guy who's typically going to beat you with his feet. He's very athletic, was compared to Ben Roethlisberger at times, but not a guy who's going to test you in that way. So Iowa needs to really focus now that they can assume they've got healthy players, because they were really banged up everywhere during the spring. The defensive line is really going to have to develop in order for Iowa to be able to counteract those multi-purpose quarterbacks that you're going to get weeks 1 and 2. And this leads us to the fifth and final key for Iowa this fall camp. The biggest need in fall camp, or I should say the fifth biggest need for Iowa during fall camp, and that is just to stay healthy. I know that's kind of stating the obvious, but Iowa has, just like any other team, has had its fair share over the years of players that get banged up during fall camp. I think back to the broken foot of Matt Vandenberg. They've had other guys that have got banged out. Again, we mentioned running back is a big key. And we're not going to talk about our most indispensable players on this podcast. Maybe we can talk about that as we get closer to the season as well. But I think we know who those players are. Tyler Goodson's going to be at the top of that list. I think Sam Laporta has to be near the top because we don't know anything about Sam's backups, really. Luke Lachey, maybe. Josiah Meeman, perhaps Elijah Yelverton, and, of course, Spencer Petras. It's just going to be an interesting few weeks. You just hope that we don't hear anything. And listen, Kirk is going to be very hush-hush about injuries, as he should be.